Welcome to the fifth and final module in the Healthy Minds for Life Mental Health Education series. Before we begin, we would like to thank Windsor-Essex Community Foundation 646 program and Green Shield Canada for their generous funding for this program. This section is titled Understanding Depression. A few important notes to mention regarding depression are: depression is not a sign of weakness. Many capable, intelligent, and extremely accomplished people have been depressed. Being depressed does not mean that you have a weak personality or character flaw. If you have depression, you are not alone. Approximately 8% of adults will experience major depression at some time in their lives. Did you know the human mind has evolved in such a way that it naturally creates psychological suffering? Dr. Russ Harris explains more in the following video entitled The Happiness Trap.
The human mind has evolved to think in such a way that it naturally creates psychological suffering. You see, back in the Stone Age, 200,000 years ago, life was pretty dangerous for our caveman ancestors. So if a caveman or cavewoman wanted to survive, their minds had to constantly be on the lookout for things that might hurt or harm them. And if that cave person's mind wasn't good at predicting, spotting, or avoiding danger, what happened to her? The default setting of the caveman mind was safety first, and we in the modern world have inherited this. Our modern minds are constantly warning us of things that might hurt or harm us. The caveman mind says, "Watch out, there might be a bear in that cave, you could get eaten. Watch out, that shadow on the horizon might be an enemy from another clan, you could get speared." Our modern mind then does worrying, predicting the worst, avoiding anything that scares you, anxiety in all of its different forms. Back in caveman days, you survive an encounter with a bear or a wolf, then it's useful to replay it. It's useful for your mind to go over the events and remember what you did to survive so that you're better prepared for next time. But in our modern world, we go over and over painful memories, dwelling on them, reliving them, even when there's nothing useful to learn or the lesson has been well and truly learned a long time ago. In the Stone Age era, as a caveman or cavewoman, you have to fit in with the group. If you are alone, you will soon die. So your mind compares you to others in the group. Am I fitting in? Am I contributing enough? Am I following the rules? Am I doing anything that might get me thrown out? Now, in modern life, we're always comparing ourselves to others. But the problem is, we're no longer in a small group. Our groups are enormous today, and we carry with us devices that constantly feed us images and stories of people all over the planet. This constant comparison ramps up our fear of being judged or rejected, or not fitting in, or just not being good enough. The caveman mind tells you need more food, you need more water, better weapons, better shelter. The cave people who thought this way lived longer and had more offspring. Unfortunately, in the modern world, this manifests as greed, dissatisfaction, craving, wanting. It's never enough. I need more, more, more. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, these Stone Age thought patterns are intensified by the sheer pace and complexity of modern life, our frantic existence, rushing from task to task, that never-ending to-do list. So, when your mind starts doing this unhelpful stuff, as all minds do, remember it's not defective or abnormal. And it's not deliberately trying to make your life difficult. It's simply doing the job it has evolved to do, trying to keep you safe and save you from pain.
Let's touch on the difference between sadness and depression. Depression is a word that is used both for a sad, despairing mood and for a psychiatric disorder. Everyone feels down or blue sometimes, oftentimes following a disappointment, loss, or other traumatic life event. Sadness is usually caused by a specific situation, person, or event, while depression is more than just sadness. What is depression? Depression is a combination of factors relating to the duration of negative feelings, other symptoms, bodily impact, and the effect upon the individual's ability to function in daily life. An individual suffering from depression can feel sad or hopeless about everything. This person may have every reason in the world to be happy, and yet he or she does not have the ability to experience joy or pleasure. Some common symptoms of depression include feeling sad or empty, thoughts of death or suicide, aches and pains, overeating and weight gain, lack of appetite, poor memory, concentration, and decision-making, insomnia or lack of sleep, fatigue and lack of energy, anger and irritability, no pleasure in activities, feeling excessively guilty, feeling worthless, feeling hopeless or helpless. Depression can affect how you act, how your body reacts, how you think, how you feel. It can cause you to be argumentative, avoidant, or overly protective. Those who are dealing with depression have a tendency to isolate socially, decreased physical activity, not engaging in the things that were once fun or enjoyable or interesting. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 5th edition, DSM-5, depressive disorders have been separated from bipolar-related disorders. The common feature of all of these disorders is the presence of a sad, empty, or irritable mood, accompanied by somatic and cognitive changes that significantly affect the individual's capacity to function. What differs among them are duration, timing, or presumed etiology. Possible presentations of depression can appear in one's mood, low, hopeless, helpless, unable to experience joy or pleasure, thoughts, impaired thinking, poor memory and concentration, possibly preoccupied with death and suicide, negative thought patterns, i.e., rumination, fixating, catastrophizing. Self-esteem, low, preoccupied by shortcomings, worthlessness, negative comparison to others. Activity, diminished or slow movements in activities, sleep and appetite disturbances, low energy, low motivation, fatigue. If one is depressed, they may notice changes in appetite and weight, sleep problems, either sleeping too much or too little, loss of interest in work, hobbies, people, loss of feeling for family members and friends, feelings of uselessness, hopelessness, excessive guilt, preoccupation with failures or inadequacies and a loss of self-esteem, having certain thoughts that are obsessional and difficult to turn off, agitation or loss of energy, feelings of restlessness or being too tired and weak to do anything, slowed thinking, forgetfulness, trouble concentrating and making decisions, decreased sexual drive, a tendency to cry easily or having the urge to cry but being unable to do so, suicidal or occasionally homicidal thoughts, and in some cases, a loss of touch with reality, perhaps hearing voices or having strange ideas may come into play. According to the DSM, there are varied types of depressive disorders, including disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, major depressive disorder or clinical depression, persistent depressive disorder, dysthymia, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, substance, medication-induced depressive disorder, depressive disorder due to another medical condition. What causes depression? Depression is not caused by one thing, but a combination of both nature and nurture factors interacting with one another. Nature factors include biological factors, genetics. Individuals may inherit genes that make them vulnerable to developing depression. Hormones. The brain goes through some hormonal changes before and during a depressive episode, which can affect certain parts of the brain. An imbalance of important brain chemicals called neurotransmitters. Nerve cells in the brain communicate to each other by neurotransmitters, and serotonin plays an important role in regulating and modulating mood, sleep, anxiety, sexuality, and appetite. Factors pertaining to nurture include early life experiences, patterns of attachment with parents, early life stress and trauma, modeling from important elders or authority figures, learned behavior from others that may have been depressed or anxious, learned thoughts about the world and self, major life changes, moving a lot growing up, stressful jobs, changes in health status, divorce, loss of loved ones through death or separation, sense of failure. Some people may stake their happiness on achieving particular goals, stressful life events such as unemployment, financial worries, serious difficulties with spouse, parents or children, physical illness, and major changes in life circumstances. Thinking. Overstressing the negative. Taking responsibility for bad events, having inflexible rules about how one should behave, thinking that you know what others are thinking and they are thinking badly of you. Positive mental health is the capacity to feel, think, and act in ways that enhance the ability to enjoy life and deal with challenges. This infographic is the third in a series of knowledge products responding to the need for better data on positive mental health. The Public Health Agency of Canada is working to identify, organize, and present data on positive mental health outcomes and protective and risk factors. This graphic depicts how we can implement a positive mental health framework as an individual as well as in our family, community, and society. Treatment and recovery is possible and may include medication, psychotherapy, communication, exercise, healthy food, vitamins, schedule, relaxation, travel, music, positive thinking, sleeping enough. Recovery is our personal process that we go through in gaining control, meaning, and purpose in our lives. Recovery involves different things for different people. For most, recovery means living a full life while learning to live with ongoing symptoms. Everyone has their own goals in recovery. For example, recovery could mean feeling hopeful about the future, feeling confident that you can handle most things that do come up, reconnecting with your friends, returning to work or school. Early intervention increases the likelihood of positive results for those living with depression. Psychotherapy offers the opportunity to identify factors that contribute to depression and enables one to learn to deal effectively with psychological, behavioral, interpersonal, and situational causes. Different modalities are used, the most common being cognitive behavioral therapy. Prescribed medication, exercise, vagus nerve stimulation, VNS, electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, transcranial magnetic stimulation, and combination of treatments. It's important to note that treatment is unique to every individual. What can I tell someone when they ask how they can help? Some suggestions. Be there for me, for example, phone calls, check-ins, sit with me. Listen to what I have to say without judgment or advice. Don't walk away or give up on me. Help connect me with supports. Ask me what you can do to help me. Remind me of my strengths. A proactive way of breaking the vicious cycle of depression is to increase our level of activity even if we don't feel like it. Behavioral activation is about making your life meaningful and pleasurable again and involves these steps. Understanding that we need to activate ourselves to feel better. Monitoring our daily activities to understand the relationship between our activity and our mood. Identifying our values and goals. Scheduling and carrying out meaningful activities to boost our experience of pleasure and mastery. Never underestimate the power of giving. You can. Do something nice for a friend or a stranger. Thank someone, smile, volunteer your time, join a community group, hold the door for someone, show kindness, laughter, humor, and remind yourself that feelings are not facts. In this short animated video, Dr. Russ Harris explains 3 of the most challenging myths about happiness and how easily they can instead lead us towards pain and suffering.
Popular ideas about happiness will make you miserable if you actually hold onto them too tightly, believe them too much, or let them dictate how you live your life. And there are 3 big happiness myths in particular that create this happiness trap. The first is the idea that happiness is the natural state for human beings. You know, if you give human beings food, water, shelter, and loving relationships, they're just gonna naturally be happy. You've probably heard this myth in many, many forms. The reality is that The normal state for a human being is an ever-changing flow of emotions. Emotions are like the weather, continually changing. You wouldn't say the natural state for the weather is a warm spring, sunny afternoon. It's natural in winter that it's going to be colder, in summer it's going to be hotter. And so it is with our emotions. You expect to feel anxious in challenging situations with an uncertain outcome. You expect to feel fear when there's danger or threat present. Now, the second big happiness myth links to the first one, the idea that happiness means feeling good. If you look at most dictionary definitions of happiness, it's described as a state of pleasure or a state of contentment. Well, if this is your notion of happiness, then there's no such thing as lasting happiness. Because how long does a good feeling last? Think of the happiest day of your life. How long did a state of pleasure or contentment last before there was some frustration, disappointment, anxiety, irritation? If I were to define the word happiness, I would describe it as living a rich, full, and meaningful life in which we feel the full range of human emotions. The things that make life rich, full, and meaningful don't just give us pleasant feelings. Like, think about building loving relationships. Think about people that you love and care about and you spend a long time with. Do you have a relationship like that in your life that only gives rise to pleasant feelings? When relationships are going well, there's often wonderful feelings of love and joy, but all relationships come with tension and conflict and difficulty. If you're a parent, if you have children, then you know that having kids brings a huge amount of meaning and purpose and fulfillment into your life. But what other feelings does it give you? Now, when I ask this question to audiences at my public workshop, there's a big laugh, and then parents start calling out anxiety, guilt, frustration, anger, rage. You know, it's like amazing how these people that we love so much can arouse such strong, painful emotions in us. So this holds true for really any meaningful life project, from building a career, from looking after your body, from building a family. The things that make life rich, full, and meaningful give you plenty of painful emotions, as well as some very pleasant ones. And the third big myth that feeds into the other two is the idea if you're not happy, you're defective. More and more, human nature is being pathologized as signs there's something wrong with you and you need some medication to fix it. The reality is that if you're not happy, you're normal. Life is difficult. You know, I ask my public workshops, is there anybody here who thinks life is too easy, that needs some more difficulty in their life? Anybody in this room that needs some more pain and suffering? You know, life is hard and challenging. Not always, but a lot of the time it is.
Outside the comfort zone is where the magic happens. Try, otherwise you'll never know. There is an Abraham Maslow quote that states, "In any given moment, we have two options, to step forward into growth or to step back into safety." Outside of one's comfort zone, you may notice a fear of change, fear of failure, or fear of success. You may be uncomfortable in the way things are, but afraid to change. But expanding your comfort zone or getting more comfortable outside of it does get easier with practice. You should be mindful and normalize discomfort with the process. It may be a challenging and uncomfortable process, although it is rewarding. Think of it as the pursuit of life you would like to live. Here are some helpful self-management tools: mindfulness, self-care, sleep hygiene, aromatherapy, journal, breathing exercises, relaxation exercises, physical exercise. The most important holistic treatment of all is self-compassion. Here are some tips. Laughing. Being able to laugh at yourself and with others increases endorphin levels and decreases stress hormones. Let go of frustrations. Do not judge self harshly. Don't expect more from yourself than you do from others. Try to accept your faults. How else can I incorporate self-compassion into my life? Self-kindness is demonstrating to yourself the kindness that you have towards others when you are struggling. Common humanity involves acknowledging that everyone suffers. Suffering is a part of life, and as humans, we all suffer. It's recognizing that if you are suffering, it is not because there is something wrong with you, but that everyone has moments of suffering. Inadequacies and imperfection are part of the shared human experience. Mindfulness is noticing when we are suffering and attending to our struggle. Being mindful is to observe negative thoughts with openness. A key piece of mindfulness is to remain non-judgmental when we notice our suffering and negative thoughts. A moment of self-compassion can change your entire day. A string of such moments can change the course of your life. Some final takeaways we hope you'll have after viewing this module: spiritual, existential, meaning and hope, altruism, meditation, social, emotional, friendships, social supports, role models, biological, environmental, housing, nutrition, exercise, cognitive, mental, humor, optimism, and free will. That wraps up the final module in the Healthy Minds for Life series. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our community partners.